Hi everybody, I'm Susan Mulvihill. Welcome back to my Zone 5B garden in Spokane, Washington. Boy, we have been treated to some gorgeous weather lately. We've been getting into the upper 60s, which is amazing. It's still getting pretty chilly at night, but we are definitely coming into the nice weather. So what are we up to today? Well, first of all, I want to talk with you about hardening off any seedlings that you've started indoors. This is such an important process and will save you a lot of grief and keep your plants very happy. And then I want to show you how our lettuce plants are doing because they're in the ground earlier than ever. First thing I want to do is start out by showing you these gorgeous cedar wax wings. They are making that little whistling sound, if you can hear it. It's pretty faint. But they love eating crab apples and the berries off of our American cranberry bushes. And they've been just hanging out lately. For the last couple of years, we've had a pair or two actually nest in our yard, which I think is really cool. But they are such gorgeous birds, so I thought you'd enjoy seeing them. Do you enjoy starting your plants from seed? We grow a big vegetable garden every year, and also a lot of flowers, of course. And I love starting things early indoors and then transplanting them out into the garden. So I'm talking about things like peas, beans, corn, and that's because I'm trying to protect young seedlings from the quail that love to peck away at them, and so I get them to a size where they can fend for themselves. But also things like tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, melons, squash, and so on. Now the thing that you really need to know about is the importance of hardening off your seedlings before you move them officially into your garden beds. If you think about the light inside our houses and also the temperature, they're nothing like what's outside, right? The sun is much more intense and the temperatures fluctuate a lot more than what we have inside. So what you need to do about a week to 10 days before you're ready to transplant your seedlings out into the garden is to put them through the hardening off process. The purpose of this is to gradually acclimate them to the intensity of the sunlight and to the temperatures outdoors. So you can see I've got my gutter peas here, and if you're wondering what in the world I'm talking about, check out my recent video by the same name. But I have these seedlings, and I've had them indoors for a while. I've had them in our little greenhouse for a bit, but I want to plant them in about a week. And so the reason I want to acclimate them to the light is if I don't, the sun can be so intense here and it will actually burn the seedlings' leaves. That is a huge setback for a young plant, and it can actually even kill a plant. If you have ever purchased a seedling or you've grown something from seed indoors and you move it out to your garden, and you just plant it right away without going through the hardening off process, you might have noticed white leaves or white patches on some of the leaves. That is sunburn. It's the equivalent of what happens to us when we don't protect ourselves from the intensity of the sun, and let's say we work outside all day. So let me outline what the process is for hardening them off. On the first day, you move your seedlings outdoors into an area that gets filtered light, not full direct sunlight. And you leave them outside for about an hour, and then you move them back in. The second day, 2 hours, and then they go back in. The third day, 3 hours, and so on. Now, over the course of a week to 10 days, what you're going to do is gradually move them into more and more sunlight so that they're in direct sunlight for the last few days. I realize it's challenging doing a process like this when you work all day or you don't have any extra help for somebody putting them back indoors for you, and you're just going to have to wing it and see what works best for you. But I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to harden off your seedlings. And by the end of that 7 to 10 days, they will definitely be ready and raring to go out in your garden. You might recall from a previous video that I said I was pre-warming the soil of this bed, and that was because I wanted to transplant my lettuce seedlings in here earlier than ever. Well, I warmed up the soil and I planted them a few days ago, and you can see they are doing really nicely. So I've got about 20 seedlings in here of various types, and that worked just fine. I used our compost thermometer to test the soil temperature. It was at like 45 degrees, and that is fine for lettuce. And I'm keeping the cloches on for now because we still have some nights in the 30s coming up. And I just have the little vent holes in the tops of these cloches slightly open so it doesn't get too warm in here during the daytime. So I'm pretty happy with that, and I can't wait till we get to start eating some fresh salad greens again. Now you might also recall this is in a bed that has some agricultural insect netting over the lid. And in this case, I'm keeping this cover on, or at least I will once the cloches are removed, to keep birds from pecking on the lettuce leaves, because that happens a lot with finches and quail. This is not to keep any bugs out, but this is a very fine mesh that will work very well to keep aphids and cabbage worms away from cabbage family crops, or leaf miners away from beet family crops, which are beets, spinach, and Swiss chard. I have been asked a lot where we got this from. It's from agfabric.com. I think that they are selling out of some sizes because so many of you have asked me about it and ordered some. There's another website you might try if you can't find any at agfabric.com, and it's called agriculturesolutions.com. So anyway, that's what this is for. Again, for the lettuce, it's not to keep bugs away, it's to keep the birds away. But we'll be using this same netting over 2 other beds to protect the beets and the Swiss chard and to protect our broccoli crop. One other thing I wanted to show you is how well my leek seedlings are doing. This is Bulgarian Giant. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that in the fall I have harvested huge leeks. I really like this variety. It's from Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds. And I started them indoors, and then when they were just a couple of inches tall, I decided to move them out to the greenhouse. So in here we have a small space heater that is connected to a thermostat, and if the temperature drops below 40 degrees, it comes on, so it doesn't get down to freezing. In the past, what I've done with growing leeks is I let them grow a few inches and then I cut them back to about 2 inches tall and let them grow and cut them back and let them grow and cut them back and so on. And that's because I really want them to get a nice root system, and by cutting them back, that's what happens. However, as I've mentioned in previous videos, I love watching different videos from British allotment gardens, and they talk about how they don't cut them back at all. And so I thought I want to give this a try, and I have to say I am really impressed with these little seedlings. The other thing that I didn't do differently this year, but I'm now realizing I could do differently, is instead of having them in individual pony packs, I could plant them all in one large container, because I've heard from various gardeners in the UK that they pull apart very easily at planting time. So that's something I'll change for next year. But I just wanted you to see how they're doing. I'm really impressed. This little mess over here is all onion seedlings that actually Bill planted in bulk like the Brits do, so that's what I should have done. But anyway, so they're doing really well, and they'll get planted outdoors pretty soon too. Well, that's everything for today. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. I've got more yard cleanup to do, so I'm going to sign off for now, and I'll see you next week.